All right, let's just dive right into this. Welcome back to today's explainer. We're moving past all that abstract theory today, and we're finally getting our hands dirty with a real practical journey. We're going to look at exactly how to build a MOOC, a massive open online course platform using the Scrum framework. So if you've ever found yourself wondering how these complex digital products actually get built, step by step, well, you are absolutely in the right place. Here's our roadmap for the day. We're covering 1. The MOOC product vision, 2. Scrum team roles, 3. Building out that product backlog, 4. Planning and actually living the sprint, 5. The sprint review and retrospective, and 6. Wrapping it all up with a cycle of continuous improvement. Let's get to it. Starting with Section 1, the MOOC product vision, or as I like to call it, setting the North Star. So in traditional project management, you've probably seen this, right? You try to lock down the entire scope up front. You plan out every single feature linearly, and the result? Your time and your costs end up fluctuating wildly. But Scrum flips this completely on its head. It keeps the time and the team's capacity strictly fixed, while the scope stays adaptable. Because look, the goal isn't to stubbornly build every single thing you guessed you'd need on day one. The goal is to maximize the actual value you deliver and adapt as you learn. Now, this highly adaptable process, it doesn't just start with some massive, overwhelming checklist. No, it starts with a product vision. For our MOOC, the vision is simple. Create a simple, engaging, and personalized online learning platform that reduces barriers for students and helps instructors share their content effectively. This vision is our North Star. It gives this overarching direction and real meaning to the team's work. It's exactly what helps us make those tough priority decisions later down the line. Moving right along to Section 2, Scrum team roles. Who actually builds the product? Okay, so a Scrum team thrives on 3 very specific accountabilities, and they perfectly balance each other out. First up, we've got the product owner. They are the ultimate voice of the vision. Their whole job is maximizing business value. So, for example, they're the ones deciding that, hey, an easy student registration process is way more urgent right now than some advanced personalized recommendation algorithm. Next, we have the Scrum Master. And listen, they aren't your traditional boss. They're more like the master of the process. They help the team remove impediments, like stepping in if stakeholders keep trying to change priorities midweek, which we all know happens. And finally, the developers. And remember, these aren't just coders. This includes UX designers, testers, literally everyone needed to actually build the product. They are completely autonomous in deciding exactly how to build the work. All right, Section 3, building the product backlog, mapping out the work. To map this out, we break down our work using user stories, and we focus entirely on the person actually using the product. So, as a student, I want to register using my email so that I can access the platform. It's essentially a micro-narrative. Notice how it doesn't list out dry technical specifications? Instead, it sparks a conversation between the developers and the product owner about who wants this, what they're trying to achieve, and the real benefit they get from it. And when it comes to estimating these stories, developers usually don't use hours or days. Why? Because let's be honest, humans are notoriously bad at guessing time. Instead, they use relative story points. So the team might agree that a super simple password reset feature is our baseline. Let's call it a 1. Compared to that, email registration might be a 3 because it requires email validation and database integration. But a feature like personalized recommendations, now that involves complex algorithms and massive data. That's a 13. This system is brilliant because it makes sizing the complexity of tasks visually intuitive without getting completely bogged down in arbitrary hourly tracking. Which brings us to Section 4, planning and living the sprint, executing the work. Scrum operates in short, fixed time boxes, usually around 2 to 4 weeks, and these are called sprints. And every single sprint follows a very exact sequential rhythm. We start off with sprint planning, we sync up every 24 hours with a daily scrum, we cap it off by showing the product in the sprint review, and finally, we take a hard look at our own processes in the sprint retrospective. Now, the absolute most vital part of sprint planning, establishing a sprint goal. For our MOOC, our first goal is enable students to explore the course catalog and register for the platform. You see, we don't just hand developers some random disjointed list of tasks. We give this short iteration a unified, tangible purpose. Everything the team selects to work on over the next couple of weeks absolutely must align with unlocking this specific value for the user. And this right here visualizes the heartbeat of the sprint, the Scrum board. As our developers break down that email registration user story into concrete tasks, designing the form, implementing validation, these tasks all start out in the to-do column. And over the sprint, you visually track the team pulling these tasks into in progress and eventually, hopefully, into done. It's great because if a bunch of tasks get stuck in progress, the team immediately sees the bottleneck. Now, to make sure everything flows smoothly across that board, the developers hold a daily Scrum. This is just a quick 15-minute sync. They'll typically ask 3 key questions. What did I do yesterday? What will I do today? And are there any impediments in my way? Now, it is absolutely crucial to note here. This is not a status report for the boss. No way. It is a daily inspection by the developers for the developers so they can adapt their plan for the next 24 hours and ensure they actually hit that sprint goal. But how do we actually know when a task moving across our board is finished? Well, that's where the definition of done comes into play. For our MOOC, an email registration feature isn't done just because the developer finished writing the code. Definitely not. It must be tested, working flawlessly, integrated into the real environment, and completely secure. If it doesn't meet this strict standard of quality, it is not a usable increment and it cannot be presented at the end of the sprint. Simple as that. Section 5. Sprint Review and Retrospective. Inspect and adapt. First up, at the end of the sprint, is the sprint review. And pay attention to what isn't happening here. This is not some boring PowerPoint presentation to executives. No, it is a hands-on, highly collaborative session. The stakeholders actually get to sit down, open up the new MOOC platform, register an account, and browse the catalog for themselves. They inspect the real increment. And based on their real-time feedback, like maybe they realize the catalog needs much better filters, the product owner immediately adapts the product backlog for the future. Then, once the stakeholders leave the room, the Scrum team holds the sprint retrospective. This is where they look inward. They're asking, how did we work together? What went well? Hey, maybe the registration was finished early? Awesome. But what needs to improve? Maybe they realize that testing started way too late in the 2 weeks, which caused a huge bottleneck. And most importantly, they decide what to change right now. They agree, hey, let's involve testers on day 1 of the next sprint. This is exactly how a team continuously levels up their own communication and workflow. And finally, Section 6, the cycle of continuous improvement. Iterate and grow. Because you know what happens the very next day? The cycle immediately repeats itself. The team takes all that valuable stakeholder feedback plus their own retrospective learnings, and they feed it right back into planning the very next sprint. They establish a brand new sprint goal like enable students to enroll in a course and start watching learning content. Now they're tackling video playback. They are building incrementally and adapting constantly. Which brings us to a close today. We've seen exactly how Scrum transforms a massive project, like building an entire MOOC, into focused, manageable, value-driven sprints. So I'm going to leave you with this final, provocative question to ponder. If you apply this iterative, value-driven mindset to your own projects right now, what will your team learn in the next sprint? Thank you so much for joining this explainer, and keep iterating.